in memory of Saul and Flores, Saul and Flores, Sarah Bas Abraham, Shmuel ben Zechariah, may their neshamas have an aliyah and the family Zayn Chama. Chato, Ad Shalom Nismano. Supposed to listen to this interesting case. Let's say again you have a case of where the Nasi, the king, or the Kohen Gadol sinned before, and then they're appointed to their particular position. Then they're appointed to their positions. Rabbi says what happens, but nevertheless, before their appointment, they have not yet brought their particular karbanos. They've not brought their kapara for their sin. Obviously, the shayla that the Mishnah is dealing with Rabbi is what? Is what type of karban do they bring? Do they bring the karban of a hedyot, or do they bring the karban ultimately again of the melech or a nasi? So the Mishnah says, "Hare elu ke'hedyotos." So the Tanakama, the Rabbana paskin, that they are treated like a hedyot. They're treated like regular people. And Rabbi said, what's the logic behind that? The logic behind that, Rashi says, is the Rabbanan Basar Chet Azli. The rabbis explain that the nature of your karban is determined by your status at the time of the sin. We look at who you are, what you are at the time of your sin, and that dictates the kind of karban you bring. Even if what, Rabbi even if halacha l'maisa, before you get a chance to bring the actual karban, your status changes. Nevertheless, halacha l'maisa, your status is locked in at the time of the sin. Reb Shimon disagrees. Reb Shimon Omer, im noda lahem ad shelo nismanu chayavim, mishen nismanu peturim. Reb Shimon Abosai says as follows. Reb Shimon holds that halacha l'maisa, Reb Shimon essentially says that your status is determined both by the time of chet and yediyah, the time that you sin and the time that you become aware of your sin. So Shimon says, if halacha l'maisa, they become aware of their infraction before the appointment to their new positions, then einach inami, they'll bring a karban like a hedyot. Otherwise, again, they will be pater. So if they only find out that they sinned once they became a nasi or a kohen gadol, then ultimately in Rav Shimon's model, in this case, they will be pater. They will be pater. So therefore, again, also fundamental machlokas. When do we gauge the chiyuv of the individual? The Rabbanan say at the time of the chet, their status is locked in. Reb Shimon says you need both chet and yediyah. So the Gemara goes weiter. So Ezehu Nasi, we'll say, by the way, ask the Mishnah, who is this Nasi that we were speaking about this entire time? Zeh Melech. This refers ultimately again to the king. Shnei Amar Mikol Mitzvos Hashem Elokav, because we'll say again, we're referring to the Nasi, because remember I mentioned this in passing yesterday. The pasuk that talks about the king, use lashon of Asher Nasi Yechta, if the Nasi will sin and do one of the sins that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, his God, told him not to do. So remember again, lest you think that the Torah never uses the word melech, that's not true. After all, again, when the Torah speaks out the commandment to appoint a king, what does it say? Som tasim alecha melech. So again, what the Mishnah is dealing with over here is who is the Nasi? To which the Gemara answers, the Nasi is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Nasi is the melech. Where do we know this from? Because the pasuk says, "Mikol mitzvos Hashem Elokav." If you will violate any of the mitzvos of Hashem, His God, she'ein al gabav el Hashem Elokav. We're referring to someone who answers to no one other than God. Who is the man who answers to no one other than God? It is ultimately the Melech. So Menachanimili. So asks the Gemara, from where do we know this? The Tan Rabbanan. So also what the Gemara is asking over here is as follows: in the sheet of the Rabbanan, we have this idea that if the individual sins as a commoner, even if before they bring their karban, they are appointed as melech or nasi, they bring the karban of a commoner. From where do we know this? The Tan Rabbanan in Kohen HaMashiach lashmasam, if the anointed Kohen will sin, prat lekodmos. We'll say ultimately again, when does the Kohen bring his particular karban? That ultimately again comes to exclude a case of kodmos. We'll say kodmos means where he sinned before his appointment. In that kind of situation, he only brings the karban of a regular individual. So the Gemara says, "Valo dinner." So we're going to go through a little bit of a lengthy discussion about this. Not lengthy, like long, but in-depth conversation about this. Valo dinu. I just want to point out, when I put out a gadata on the WhatsApp, it was not a way to lure you here. This is like what we call switch and big switch. The answer is no. We're gonna get to it. We just have to do a few lines. So I'll say the Nasi, the king, who brings his karban b'shiggas maisa, when he makes a mistake about a particular halacha, ein mevi ala kodmos, does not bring a karban or I should say the king's karban, for any Avera committed before his appointment, Mashiach she'ein mevi ela al helam davar b'shigas ma'isa, the Kohen Mashiach only brings, remember, we spoke about this yesterday, if there are two factors in effect. Number one, helam davar, that he did not know the halacha, and shigas ma'isa, and a mistaken action, and din shelo yavi ala kodmos. He certainly should not bring ultimately again for any Avera committed before his appointment. To which the Gemara says, not necessarily, no. If the Nasi doesn't go ahead but yet the Nasi is different. Why? We'll say this goes back to yesterday's daf. Once the king is no longer the king, we'll say, then what? His karbanos reflect are the karbanos of a commoner. We'll say, what did we learn? That the Kohen Gadol, even after he is no longer the practicing Kohen Gadol, still what? Still brings the karbanos of the Kohen Gadol. Yavi ala kodmos. I might have thought that because the Kohen Gadol has this interesting status, that even once he is no longer functioning as the Kohen Gadol, he still brings the karbanos of the Kohen Gadol. Maybe what? He should also bring the Kohen Gadol's karban for a chait committed before he became Kohen Gadol, before a chait that he has not yet brought his karban. To which, let me say that differently. Because the Kohen Gadol ultimately retains his status even after he is no longer the practicing Kohen Gadol, I might have thought that for an Avera that he committed before his appointment, but that only found out about, or that only had an opportunity to bring a karban for after his appointment, that maybe he should bring the karban of the Kohen Gadol as well. Talmud Lomar, we'll say first wide line, HaMashiach Yachta. So therefore, again, the pasuk says, if the anointed Kohen will sin, Chata kishu Mashiach maybe, kishu hedyot any maybe. Therefore, we'll say the pasuk teaches us that no, it is only for a sin committed while he is the Kohen Gadol does he bring the unique karban, but for any sin that was committed before his appointment, he brings the karban of a commoner. But Tanya nami gabe nasi ki gavna. The Brisa also supports this assertion by the king. Asher nasi yechta, if the king will sin, prat lakodmos. We'll say this comes to exclude a case of what? Of where the king sinned prior to his appointment as king, that he does not bring the king's karban, rather he brings a commoner's karban. Shiachav alo dinhu, because we'll say otherwise I could have made the following kavachomer. Uma Mashiach shemevi chatason misha'avar eno mevi ala kodmos. So we'll say the Kohen Mashiach, who brings the Kohen Gadol's karban, even what? Even after he is no longer the functioning Kohen Gadol, right? Nevertheless, does not bring the karban for a sin committed before his appointment as Kohen Gadol. Nasi she'ein mevi chatason misha'avar. The Nasi Rabbi say who once he is no longer acting in the capacity as king, does not bring the special king's karban. Eino din shelo yavi ala kodmos. Certainly, again, he should not bring the karban on any averos committed before his appointment as king. To which the Gemara says, but 1 second. Mala Mashiach shekin in maybe b'shigagas ma'isa. But yet again, when it comes to the Kohen Mashiach, he brings his special karban as long as there's shigagas ma'isa, as long as he makes a mistaken action. Tamar benasi shemaybe b'shigagas ma'isa. Hoil umaybe b'shigas ma'isa yavi ala kodmos. Ultimately, again, so but the Nasi will say who does go ahead and bring the karban b'shigas ma'isa. Maybe again he should also have to bring the karban for actions committed before his appointment to king. Talmud Lomar asher Nasi yachta. So shechata v'hariu Nasi v'lo shechata v'odeo edyot. So we'll say therefore again the pasuk says asher Nasi yachta, that it is only if he sins while he is the Nasi that he brings a special karban, but any averos committed prior to his appointment as the Nasi, he does not bring the special Nasi's karban. So we'll say, so bottom line, halacha l'maisa, the Gemara is teaching me that we paskin like the Rabbana, namely that the only time that the Kohen Gadol and the Melech will bring their unique karbanos is if the chait was committed while they were in office. Now again, remember. So let's finish this thought. So while the chait was committed while they were in office, if they sinned before they were in office, but let's say did not yet have an opportunity to bring the karban, then were appointed to office, it doesn't matter. They still bring the karbanos of hedyo. Now remember again, if we can follow through that continuum, if they sin while they are in office, and then what? Leave office before having the chance to bring their karbanos, then what happens, Rabbi? The Kohen Gadol will still bring the karban of a Kohen Gadol. The Melech will bring the karban of the Hedyot. So now we see the entire continuum from Hedyot to Hedyot and everything in between. Good. Tan Rabbanan, we'll say very, very beautiful and exciting Gemara ahead of us. Asher Nasi Yachta. If the king will sin, Yochel Gzera. Now we'll say now what the Gemara says is something very interesting. Asher Nasi Yechta. We'll say, remember, Asher could be understood in a number of different ways. Asher could mean when. When. So when the Nasi sins, almost sounds like what? Like a declarative statement. The Nasi will sin. When the Nasi sins, meaning the Nasi will sin. So the Gemara says, so Yachol Gzera, I'm at a filter, we'll say this is a Gzera. Or maybe it's a decree that the Nasi is, the Torah is telling us the Nasi is going to sin. To which the Gemara says, Talmud Lomar, Im Koin HaMashiach Yechta. So we'll say, therefore, again, the pasuk uses the Gemara Torah uses lashon of Im Koin HaMashiach, if the anointed coin will sin. Malahalon l'chishiyechta, afkan l'chishiyechta. We'll say, just like by the Kohen Gadol, it's if he will sin, so too by the Melech, it is if he will sin. Amar Mar, Yachol Gzera Nehechi Teisi. So Mar says, what, I don't understand, what's even the Havamina? That the Torah is telling you that the Nasi is inevitably going to sin. Look at Rashi for just a moment, we'll say it's on the right-hand side, about halfway down in the short lines. Gzera Nehechi Teisi. Kolomar, Hechi Matzes Lememar Yachol Gzera Dehechi Ashkechan Gzera Chiyai Gafna. We'll say, where do we ever find that there's a Gzera to sin? In other words, remember, sin is a function of Bechira Chavshis. It's a function of free will. So where do you entertain a Havamina that there's a Gzera that the Melech is going to sin? Amri'in Ashkechan Dichsev. We see, because what does it say? Dichsev Benasati Negat Tzaras Beveis Eretz Achuzaschem. Torah says, I will place tzaras in the homes, in your homes, in Eretz Yisrael. Besura hilahem shenigoim ba'im aleihem. The Ribono Shel Olam is telling us in a declarative way that there is going to be tzaras in our homes. The Rabbi Yehuda, these are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. We'll say, look at Rashi just a moment. Rashi says, "Dichsev v'nasati negat tzaras ve'is aretz achuzaschem. Besura hilahem shakosov memasran sha'asir lios afa pisha davaro." They both say the Gemara is operating under the assumption that what tzaras is something bad. And yet, what is the Torah telling me? That tzaras is a punishment for some type of negative behavior. Yeah, what is the Torah telling me? What is the Torah telling me? It's going to happen. So it sounds like the Torah is telling me in a declarative way that I'm going to sin and therefore going to be punished with tzaras. So the Rabbi Shimon says, no. Prat lenigei onsin. This pasuk is coming to teach me something else, Rabbi say. That if tzaras ultimately happens through some type of ones, that again, those afflictions don't have the status of tzaras. We'll say Rashi is going to say something amazing. We'll say what's an example ultimately again of tzaras that's an ones. So Rashi says Shembo negoyim ayedei nefichas shade delo mitmu. We'll say somehow if tzaras comes about as a result of the blowing of a shade, so that type of tzaras does not convey tumah. Again, we'll see what that means in just. Actually, we're not going to see what that means, but we'll expound upon it just a bit further. So the Gemara says as follows. So the Gemara says, "Lav Amar Rabbi Yehuda v'Sora hachanami ema gzeirahi hilchach ksiv im." So we'll say again, I'm at a so Rabbi Yehuda will say, lest you think that this is a definitive declaration. So therefore, again, the pasuk uses the lashon of im. Im means if it will happen. Or Rabbi Shimon nige onsin mila metamu. So we'll say, does Rabbi Shimon hold that nige onsin? So we'll say, whatever it means, these nige onsin means tzaras that is caused by something other than my sinful behavior. So again, Rashi's example is through shading. I'm not exactly sure how you tell the difference between different types of tzaras, but whatever it is, because the Gemara says, does Rabbi Shimon really hold that tzaras that is caused by onsin, some type of external factor, nothing to do with me, does not convey tumah? V'atanya adam kiyeh. We'll say the pasuk of is talking about adam kiyeh ba'ar b'saro. The person will be afflicted with tzaras. Mina dibar ve'elech. We'll say something very interesting over here. The only time that tzaras is mitame is when? After Kabbalah Satorah. Only tzaras after Kabbalah Satorah has the ability to convey tumah. Tzaras before Kabbalah Satorah, we'll say, doesn't have the ability to convey tumah. We'll say, where is this in Afkamina? Let's say you were a Jew who arrived at Har Sinai with tzaras. Then what happens? We get to Torah, the Kohen looks at your nega, says, oh, it's tzaras. We'll say that would not become tamei. Only nigan that come about in the aftermath of Matro, what we call mina dibor ve'ilach, ultimately have the ability to convey tumah. V'alo dinu. So we'll say ultimately again, there's a kavach omer tamei b'zav time and a gaim. Ultimately, we know that a zav is tamei and a mitzvah is tamei. Ma'azav mina dibor ve'ilach. Just like the zav only becomes tamei from when? From Matan Torah and on. After gaim mina dibor ve'ilach. So to again, tzaras also only becomes tamei from Matan Torah and on. So the Gemara says, Rava Amar, Prat lenige ruchos. This ultimately, again, this pasuk actually comes to exclude what we call nige ruchos, which also means saras ultimately caused. Well, look at Rashi. Rashi says, it's in the left-hand side of Rashi. He says, Rava Amar Lo Kasha, the Kamar Shimon Prat lenige onsin, kigo nige ruchos. The al yidei defichas shade velo al yidei adam. So we'll say Rava calls this nige ruchos ultimately again some type of saras that's caused by a shade. Ultimately, such saras does not convey tumah. Rav Papa Amar Prat lenige kshafim. Rav Papa says that it comes to exclude what? Some type of saras that comes about as a result of kishuf, as a result of sorcery. These type of saras, I will say, as much as they may present as a typical saras case, saras caused by one's own sinful behavior, this type of saras ultimately again does not convey tumah. How exactly one is able to tell? Bless you. There was a this. I'm not sure. But should you be able to tell the difference? Bless you. To tell the root of it. Again, it is only saras that comes about as a result of one's sinful behavior that causes tumah. But saras that comes out because of any other external stimuli does not convey tumah. Tan Rabbanon. Asher nasi yechta. We'll say is amazing. Prat lechola. This is amazing. Prat lechola. So we'll say this comes to exclude a king who is sick. So if apparently the Gemara is saying is if the king is sick, he is pater ultimately again from the special carbon of the nasi. Says I don't understand. Mishum dahavile chole itchilem nesuse. I don't think if the king gets sick, ultimately again he's no longer the king. In other words, it sounds like if the king gets sick, he's not the king, and therefore if he sins, he brings the karbanos of a commoner. Because the king gets sick, he's not the king. What's the pshat? Amar Avdimi Bar Chama, Amar Rav Avdimi Bar Chama, Prat lenasi shenitztara. We'll say what it means is if the king is stricken with saras, Rabosai, he is temporarily deposed. If the king gets saras, he does not function as the king while the saras is still going on. Shene'emar, Vayinoga Hashemes Hamelech, Vayimitzora ad yom moso. That the king, Rabosai, this is on King Uzziah. King Uzziah was afflicted with tzaras, and he was a mitzora until the day that he died. The Yoshav bebeis hachavshis. We'll say this is going to be an amazing dimension. This is amazing Gemara, right? We'll say, and where he dwell? Where did he dwell? Bebeis chavshis. I'll say, what's the bebeis chavshis? Vacation home, right? He dwelled in the house of freedom. The Yosam ben Amelech, his son Yosam alabayis. His son Yosam ultimately took over. So we'll say, so now the Gemara is intrigued by this. We'll say, so remember, why did we quote this pasuk? We quoted this pasuk ultimately to teach us the yesod that ultimately, again, if the king is stricken with saras, he is deposed. Now, again, only deposed while the saras is there. Meaning, once he recovers, he's restored back to his monarchy. So the Gemara is bringing this pasuk. We'll say now the Gemara is going to get totally caught up in a different dynamic. What does it mean? The king Uzziah dwelled beveis chavshis in the house of freedom. Now, the Pasha Pshat, all kidding aside, is his vacation house. His vacation house. But the Gemara is intrigued by why does it use that lashon of his house of freedom? Michlal da'ato da'atashta evetava. It sounds like up until now, what, he was a slave? Was he an eved up until now? Then now that while he was the king, he was an eved. Now that he's not the king, he's free. What's the pshat? We'll say, get ready for this, Gemara. Get ready for this. Kihad Rabbi Gamliel Rabbi Yeshua Azli Bisinasa. Rabbi Gamliel Rabbi Yeshua was traveling by boat. Bahadi Rabbi Gamliel have pita. Rabbi Gamliel took with him bread. You have to pack provisions for the trip. He packed bread. Bahadi Rabbi Yeshua have pita v'sulta. Rabbi Yeshua packed in bread, but also packed in flour. Shalim pita Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel finished up his bread. And what happens? Samach asulti Rabbi Yoshua. He had to rely on the flour of Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Yoshua packed in more flour. So Rabbi Gamliel was able to partake of the flour of Rabbi Yoshua. So we'll say again, the backstory to this is what happened. The journey got delayed. That's what happened. Rabbi Gamliel had brought enough bread with him for the journey. The boat got delayed. Rabbi Gamliel runs out of bread. He has to rely on Rabbi Yoshua's flour. Amarle. So Rabbi Gamliel is intrigued by it. So also understand, this is a fast. Remember, you've seen this pair before, right? Yeah. Let's say, you remember 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago, doing Maseches Brachos? Right? Remember that Gemara? Right? Let's say, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua are the one who have the incredible showdown in Maseches Brachos that ultimately leads to Rabbi Gamliel's being fired from his job. Right, this is the whole Rabbi. I'm bringing this up because we just learned about this. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, right? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. That's when Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is appointed as the head of the Beis Medrash. Rabbi Gamliel. So we'll say here they're friends. They're friends over here in this case. So what happens? So Rabbi Gamliel is intrigued by this, and he says, "Amarle mi hava yadat hava lana kuva kulihai." Yoshua, how did you know that we would be delayed? That you brought? Rabbi Gamliel is essentially saying, "Listen, I'm a smart guy. I plan ahead." I will say, there's an incredible metaphor in this Gemara about planning ahead. The journey, any single time you see anything about a journey, that is always a metaphor for life. So when you go on the journey, you always have to plan to the best of your ability. You have to plan ahead. Rabbi Gamliel says, usually I'm pretty good. I think I brought more than enough bread with me. Right? How did you know to bring flour? How did you know that we would be so delayed that you brought flour with you? Rabbi Yeshua responds, Kochav echad l'shivim shana ola, umate es hasfinos or hasapanim, ve'amarti shema ya'ale v'yita osan. So Rabbi Yeshua says, listen, once every 70 years, there's a star that comes out that often misleads the sailors or the ship. So in other words, remember, they're navigating by the stars. So once every 70 years it happens. Now, again, I don't keep track of this stuff because at the end of the day, I'm not a normal maritime traveler. But I figured, you know what? I got to be prepared for everything. Maybe they're going to get lost. And therefore, again, I brought extra flour. Listen to this.
Baby Haley's Comet, it says here.
Baby Haley's Comet.
Baby Haley's Comet every 76 years.
Oh.
Look
at that. Baby Haley's Comet. Wow. Incredible. So the Gemara says as follows. Summerley. So listen to this, Rabbi, saying Haley's Comet is every 76 years.
Yes.
There was one a little while ago.
Yeah, I just missed it.
That's a depressing.
Oh well.
Thank you. Oh well. Good. At least they got to learn about it. So says the Gemara. Fine. Says the Gemara. Amrlei kol kach biyodcha va'ata ola b'sina. So Rabbi Gamliel says to Rabbi Yeshua, you're such a smart man, and yet you have to travel by boat. So Rashi points out over here that obviously, why is Rabbi Yeshua on this boat? Now, Pashtos, Rabbi Gamliel is on the boat for some type of official business because he's the head of the Jewish people. Rabbi Yeshua is on the boat presumably because he's got to do business. But I will say generally, again, traveling by boat, Rashi points out, is dangerous, which means that if you had any opportunity to make your parnasa on dry land, you made your parnasa on dry land. So Rabbi Gamliel says to Rabbi Yeshua, you're such a smart man. Why haven't you made your parnasa ultimately again on dry land? Why do you have to travel by boat? So Amarle, so let's listen to this. So Rabbi Yeshua says back to Rabbi Gamliel, Ad sha'ata tama alai, before you wonder about me, tama shnei tamidim sheyesh lecha biyabasha, Rabbi Elazar Chasma, Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudguda. Rabbi Yeshua says essentially, I'm making a living. I'm all right. You should worry about. I'm a smart guy. I can figure it out. You have two talmidim who are even smarter than me, who are dirt poor. Sheyodin l'shar kamatipos yesh bayam ve'elam pas le'achol. They are so smart that they can tell you how many droplets of water there are in the sea, but they don't even have bread to eat. They don't even have bread to eat for little beg and little bosh, and they don't even have anything to wear. No Sunday to lo shivim barosh. So Rabbi Gamliel says, you know what? When I get back, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to appoint them to communal positions, because like this again, they'll get a parnasa. Good morning, Mr. Schoenfeld. Right? They're going to appoint them to communal positions. They'll have a parnasa. We'll say, get ready for this. Kisha Allah. Rabbi Gamliel comes back to the shore. Shalach lahem. He sent word to Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudguda and Rabbi Elazar Chasma to appear, to come before him. Below bow. We'll say what happens. They would not come. They wouldn't respond. Chazar b'shalach ubo. And what happens now? He sent for them a second time, and this time they showed up. He understood their reticence. They understood why they were being summoned, that they were going to be appointed to official positions in the community. So Rabbi Gamliel says, I know what you're thinking. Amar lahem, you think I'm giving you positions of covet? Right? You think I'm giving you positions of covet? Amadeus, avdus ani nosein lachem. I'm giving you avdus, right? And when I appoint you for a position in the community, I'm not giving you glory. I'm not giving you covet. I'm making you avodim. Avdus ani nosein. Look at the top Rashi on the base. Avdus ani nosein lachem shasraros avdusu. Because supposed to say leadership ultimately represents being an eved to the people. Avdus ula adam lefishamuto alav ol rabbim. because the yoke of the collective, the yoke of the rabbin, the yoke of the community is upon the individual. So also I say here, it's amazing. Emil gives them such musr. He says, you guys aren't showing up because you think you think your ego is going to swell. Trust me, right? The greatest antidote to a swelled ego is Jewish communal leadership, right? So I'll say, so that knocks you down every day. So I'll say, so he says, don't worry, I'm not giving you such covet. I'm giving you a parnasa. I'm giving you a parnasa and giving you the opportunity to do great things. But don't worry about it all going to your head. You're not going to be leaders. You're going to be avad. And I will say, just understand that the tie-in of this, the tie-in is because, how did the Gemara get to this whole discussion? Because remember, again, I will say, when the Gemara was trying to prove that a king who is a Metzora doesn't serve in the capacity of the king, so it quotes the pasuk about Uziyahu. And what does it say? When Uziyahu was no longer a king, I will say, where did he go? The Veis Chavshis, right? Suddenly again, he goes to the house of freedom. Why is it called goes to the house of freedom? Because when he was king, he wasn't free. Because the leader is not free. The leader is an Eved. The leader is an Eved. So Shnei Amar Vayidabru Elav Lemor Im Hayom Tia Eved LaHamazeh. Both said this is by King Rechavam. That's when Shlomo dies and Rechavam is appointed as king. So the advisors of Shlomo say to the young king, if you will make yourself an Eved to the Am, you will be a popular and successful king. Make yourself an Eved, make yourself a servant to the people, and the people will respect you. We'll say again, an incredible yisod. And it's very important because sometimes people get involved in all types of communal things for all of the wrong reasons. And unfortunately, that's when things tend to go bad. A person should get involved with klal work for only one reason. That's to serve. Not for covet, not ultimately again for ego, not for any agenda other than to be an Eved to Klal Yisrael. Because the truth is, Ein zuchus gedolah mizo. There is no greater zuchus in this world than to be an Eved for the holiest people in the world, to be an Eved for Klal Yisrael. Tan Rabbanan, Asher Nasi Yachta. I will say more amazing Gemara. Asher Nasi Yachta. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says, Ashrei Hadar Shanasi Shalom Maybe Karban Al Shigagasal. Praiseworthy is the generation who sees its leader bring a sin offering for an inadvertent sin. And I remember we gave a little bit of a play on words over here. Rabbi Yochanan, what's this play on words? Asher, Ashrei. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai literally uses the Ashrei Nasi Yechta. Praiseworthy is the generation ultimately again who sees its leader sin and bring a carbon for its sin. Im Nasi, Gemara says, Im Nasi Shalom maybe carbon. But if people see that the leader is courageous enough to bring a carbon for his sin, then the commoner is going to say, if the king could do it, so can I. Also maybe carbon. And if the king brings a carbon for his shogi, for his accidental sin, so I'll go and we'll say, goes without saying that, of course, he's going to do tshuva for his intentional sins as well. Maskifla. I mentioned this before. There's a beautiful piece by the Amshinav Rebbe. The Amshinav Rebbe says, I don't understand. What do you mean, Ashrei Adar? Praiseworthy is a generation who sees its leader sin, right? Or praiseworthy is the leader who sins. I have even a better one. Praiseworthy is what? The leader who never sins, right? So first of all, the simple answer to that is it never happens. Everybody sins. But so the Amshinav Rebbe says something amazing. He says it's not true. He says the job of a leader is the B'sochami ani Yoshev, right? The idea is to be within the people. Let's say a leader could only appreciate the struggles of the people of what? If he has struggles of his own. If the leader doesn't have struggles, if the leader is perfect, then he can't relate to the masses. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says it's only if the leader has his struggles that he can relate to the struggles of. So that's why again it's Ashrei Adar. Praiseworthy is the leader, praiseworthy is the generation who has his own peckle. Because if he has his own peckle and he struggles and he falls and he fails, he'll be able to relate to the struggles, falls, and failures of his people. Maskifla Rava Breid Rava. So we'll say Rava, the son of Rava, asked the following question. Elame Ato Dichsiv Ve'is Asher Chata. So we'll say now 1 second. Now what you've just done is as follows. You've said that wherever it says asher could also be interpreted as what? As ashrei, praiseworthy. Okay, so let's see how this plugs in. Ve'es asher chata min hakodesh yishalim. So that which he sinned from the kodesh he shall repay. So we'll say who's that talking about? Here Ravam ben Nevat. Dichsiv be asher chata v'asher hichti. Hachanami de ashrei hadarhu. So I'll say, you're going to tell me then by Ravam ben Nevat when he used the lashon of Ashri. Ravam ben Nevat was an incredible Rasha. I'll say, remember, he wasn't always. Ravam ben Nevat was a big tzaddik. That's why when HaKadosh Baruch, remember again, Ravam ben Nevat lives at the time of Rechavam when the kingdom of Klal Yisrael splits, and the kingdom of Yisrael is handed to Ravam ben Nevat is chosen by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. but the power went to his head, and ultimately, again, he made all kinds of egregious errors. So as it says, Asher by Rava Menavat, Shiny Hacha, the Shiny Krabedibure. We'll say over here it's different. Why? Because by the Nasi, it changes the Lashon. It starts off by saying in Kol Adas Yisrael Yishku, and then it says in Koyim Mashiach and Nefesh, and by the Nasi it says Asher Nasi Yechta. So the fact that it changes the Lashon by the Nasi to Asher goes out of its way to say Asher. Even though in the other cases it said Im, is to teach us an incredible lesson that praiseworthy is the generation, ultimately again, who sees its leader sin, but also do tshuva. Darsh of Nachman Baruch Chesed, which if you think about it, is such an incredible yisod, because we live in a world where, everybody loves to see people in power fail, and often redemption is not really an option. But yet the Gemara over here says that the leader is a human being also. He's going to fail, and when you see him exhibit the strength to do tshuva, I will say, praiseworthy is such a generation. Incredible Gemara. What does it mean when it says that there is hevel? I will say the word hevel means nothingness. What does it mean when we say there's a nothingness that exists on this world? Hashem, let's say, we'll say this is a very profound Gemara. Hashem l'tzadikim shemagia leim kimaseh Hashem sha'olam abba ba'olam hazeh. We'll say, listen to this incredible Gemara. Praiseworthy are the righteous who shemagia aleihem, who experience the lifestyle of the wicked in the next world, in this world. So we'll say, follow this statement. Praiseworthy are the righteous who experience the wicked's olam haba in olam hazeh. We'll say, what's the wicked person's olam haba? Suffering. So praiseworthy is the righteous person essentially who suffers in this world, because through his suffering in this world, he will have a beautiful olam haba. Woe to the wicked, I will say, who have the olam haba of the tzaddikim in olam hazeh, which I will say means woe to the wicked who have incredible blessing in this world, because ultimately, again, that just foreshadows the incredible suffering that they're going to have in the world to come. So we'll say, this Gemara, we'll say, is the truth is, we're amongst friends, we're going to be honest. This Gemara is like the worst selling point for Yiddishkeit. Because, right, what does it essentially say? Oh, you should really be righteous. Why? And don't worry, life is going to be horrible, but there's going to be a lichtiga gan eden, right? Mamish, the afterlife. So just hold on for 120 years of misery. It's going to be great afterwards. And meanwhile, you're like, your head is nodding, but inside you're like, oh no. I don't know who wants to sign up for that. I will say, it's great. Everybody wants a great olam haba, but I'm a human being. So I will say, this is amazing. I'm a Rabbi. Atu tzadikim. So Rabbi says, whoa, hold on. What's so bad about having a good olam hazeh and a good olam haba? Who says it has to be? Where do we come up with this idea that it has to be an either or? Right? That at the end of the day, it's like this tension. It's like this tension. What's so bad if a tzaddik enjoys both worlds? Ela Amar Rabba. So Rabbi says as follows. Rabbi changes this around. Asher tzaddikim shemagia aleim k'maisar Hashem sha'olam hazeh ba'olam hazeh. So we'll say. So Rabbi says really what it means is like this. Praiseworthy is the righteous who enjoy an olam hazeh of Rishayim. Rabbi say, which means what? Praiseworthy are the righteous who not only have a beautiful olam haba, but what Rabbi say, also have a beautiful olam hazeh. Oy lahem the Rishayim shemagia aleim k'maisar tzaddikim sha'olam hazeh ba'olam hazeh. But woe to the wicked, I will say, who ultimately, again, enjoy the olam haba of, and pray, and woe to the Rishayim, ultimately, again, who have the beautiful olam hazeh of tzaddikim in this world as well. So we'll say Rava retools this, and in Rava's model, the tzaddik doesn't have to make a choice between olam hazeh and olam haba, but the tzaddik could potentially enjoy, ultimately, again, both a comfortable life in this world as well as a comfortable life in the world to come. We'll say it's what Chazal call ochel al shtei shulchanos. Someone who is able to eat at two tables, the table of olam hazeh and the table of olam haba. In other words, it need not be an either or. So let's listen to this Maisa. Rav should come before Rav Papa. Amar lahu. This is an amazing Gemara. So what happens? So these two Rabbanim, Rav Papa and Rav Huna, come over Rav Yoshua. Rav Yoshua gives him a little bit of a faher. He says, tell me, are you learning this Masechta and learning that Masechta. Amru le'in. They said yes. So listen to this. We'll say, Itarisu Purta. Tell me. Rava asks them. Rava asks them. Tell me, Rav Papa Rav Huna, do you have a little bit of money? Right? How's life? Right? How's your material? Atiru Purta means, are you a little bit wealthy? Rashi says, look at top Rashi, left-hand column. Kilomar, yesh lachem osher, ve'in lachem litrach acham azonos, yesh lachem pnai lasok tadir b'tar. So this is like such a Jewish interaction. Are you comfortable? Right? Are you comfortable? Right? Tell me again. We'll say, and I want to point something out. If you notice, Rava doesn't ask them, do you have bread to eat? Rava asks them, are you financially successful? Atiru is osher. Are you a little bit wealthy? In other words, how are you doing financially? Yesh lachem osher, ve'ein lachem litrach achar mazonos. Are you comfortable so that you're not worrying about money? Atiru, are you a little bit wealthy? Amru le'in. He said, as a matter of fact, yes. This zabnin katina da'ara. So we'll say why? Because what business were they in? Right? Real estate. Right? We're in real estate. We got a little bit of land, Baruch Hashem, and thank God we're great. Baruch Hashem, we're living off the land. The land provides us with what we need. So yes, Baruch Hashem, we are financially comfortable. Kari alayu ashem litzadikim. So we'll say, Rava said about them, praiseworthy to the righteous. Shemagia aleim kemasar Hashem sheba'olam hazeh ba'olam hazeh. Praiseworthy are the righteous who are able to enjoy the olam hazeh of the wicked in olam hazeh. In other words, we'll say, which is another way of saying, praiseworthy are the righteous who are able to enjoy a beautiful olam hazeh as well as a beautiful olam haba. It was an incredibly important Gemara. First 5 line. What does the meaning of the pasuk? When the pasuk in Hosea says, because the ways of God, right, are straight, the righteous will walk on them, but the sinner will stumble upon them. Rabbi say, now what's interesting about this statement is as follows. What's interesting about this is Rabbi say, sounds like the pasuk is describing the same path. And on that same path, the righteous will walk easily, but the wicked will stumble on that path. What's the pshat? So the Gemara says, this can be compared to 2 people who roasted their carbon pesach. One ate it for the purpose of the mitzvah, and one ate it as a glutton, meaning one was already full and overindulged, was gluttonous eating. So the one who ate the carbon pesach for the sake of the mitzvah will say that's an example of the righteous walk on the path of God. And he who went ahead and ate it in a gluttonous way, will say that's an example of that the wicked will stumble upon it. I don't understand. The guy who eats the carbon pesach in a state of achila gasa, he's wicked? You're going to call him wicked? I understand he didn't do the mitzvah in the best way, but what? Still did a mitzvah. He did a mitzvah. So I'll say we have a different mashal. Ela mashal. What's this very interesting mashal? Ela mashal shnei b'nei adam. Rather, again, there's a mashal of 2 men. So a man is in a house with his wife and with his sister. So we'll say that night it's dark. He has relations with one of the women. So for one of them, it turns out to be his wife. And one of them, it turned out to be his sister. Zeshin is always right. Zesh is well said. Zeshin is damnalo ishto. So we'll say the one who ends up having relations with his wife. Tzadikim yelchubam. So ultimately, again, so that's an example of the tzaddik. Possession is damlo achoso uposhim mikashlubam. Right. So ultimately, again, the one who ends up having relations with his sister, that's an example of the wicked will stumble upon it. So I'll say, all right, there's a lot to say on this case, which is much more problematic than the interpretation of the pasuk. But okay, that's but me dummy. So we'll say the Gemara says, how can you compare this case? We'll say we're looking for an example of one act, which for one person essentially represents a mitzvah, and for another person represents an avera. That's not this case that you're talking about over here. This case over here, I will say, is 2 different women, and one ends up being with the correct woman, and one ends up being with the incorrect woman. So ela mashal lalot ushnei benosa. Well, so listen to this case. Rather says the Gemara, and this is going to become the paradigmatic example of Lot and his 2 daughters. Heinshnis kabnu l'shem mitzvah Tzadikim Yelchubam. We'll say the daughters mamish had in mind l'shem shamayim. They thought humanity was wiped out, and they thought that the only way to perpetuate humanity was through relations with their father. They had kavanas l'shem shamayim. Their intentions were for the sake of heaven. That's tzadikim yelchubam. Hu sheniskav l'shem avera uposhli kashlubam. Slot, we'll say, who had in mind to commit an avera. Ultimately, again, he is the example of the wicked was stamana. So we'll say same exact act. The daughters are credited with being righteous. Lot is credited with being wicked. I don't understand. Dilma, maybe again I will say maybe Lot also had in mind l'shem mitzvah. How do you know he did have in mind l'shem mitzvah? Rabbi Yochanan kala pasuk has l'shem avera now. I will say the entire pasuk itself has allusions to other psukim which talk about sin. Ne'emar vayisa Lot. Pasuk says Lot lifted his eyes. Vatisa eshes adona v'seina ba'eshes potifar. Es einav vayomer Shimshon. Also, kachli ki yishaben. I will say when Shimshon ends up marrying Delilah. Einai. Vayar also Shechem ben Chamor. Es kala kikar yarden ki ba'ad ishazona ad kikar lechem. Ki kula mashka elcha achari mo'avayim nosnei lachmi umeimai tzamriyo pishtish manai v'shikuyai. So we'll say the Gemara says over here that the entire lashon of Lot contains scriptural allusions to other psukim which speak about immorality, indicating to us that Lot was an exceptionally immoral individual. Honest, but 1 second, at the end of the day, he was drunk, right? Is it not an honest? Is it not about extenuating circumstances? Tani Mishrav Yossi Barchoni, Lama Nakud Avav Shebikumasha Bechira. So we'll say, if you notice again in the pasuk says Velo Yada Bishachva Uvikuma. That Lot did not know what happened when he slept with his oldest daughter, ubikoma, and when she got up. We'll say there is a dot above the vav. What's the pshat? Lomar shebishach balo yada. He didn't know. So you're right. Inachinami. Lot did not know what happened when he slept with his oldest daughter. Ava bikuma yada. But the next morning when he got up, he realized what happened. Umay havalei lemeavad. So what should he have done? So the Gemara says, "My dahava hava." What happened? In other words, he couldn't have changed the past. You're right. But nafkamina de lapanya achmina lo iboyle lemishted. Lot, give up the wine, right? Why don't you go easy on the wine the next night, right? You recognize again that what happened last night and as a result of the wine. So that next night, when your younger daughter offers you wine, it may be kedai to pass on that one. So I'll say, so ultimately, because he didn't, which is, if you think about it, as an incredible yisod, which tells us that even the second night, he was Lot drunk, right? Even the second night, he was, the one thing is, he did not knowingly engage in an act of incest, but we'll say he allowed himself to be put in circumstances which ultimately resulted in, we'll say, this is such an incredible muster in life, because this happens all the time with us, right? Which is, I'm not actively sinning, but I allow myself to be put in circumstances, and then something happens. And then after it happens, I ask myself, how did that happen? How did it happen? I put myself in the circumstances. And once you put yourself in the circumstances, it's difficult to dial back those realities. Darash Rabba, my dichsiv ach nifsha mikiryas os. Umiyanim kibriach harmon. Ach nifsha mikiryas os. Who is the brother, a sinful brother from Kiryas os? Zet Lot, shepirish mi Avram. Lot was sinful, ultimately because he separated himself from Avram. Umiyanim kibriach harmon. And what does it mean? Again, he put like a bolt in the door to secure the doors of the palace. Shitil midyanim ben Yisrael la'amon. He created strife between Midyan and Ammon. Between Israel and Ammon. Shneamar lo yavo Ammoni ma'av b'kal Hashem. Darash Ravitim Rabbi Yitzchak. May dichsev letava yivakesh nifrav ubakol toshia yiskala letava yivakesh nifrav zelot shnifrav ne Avram. First, it's the first to Lot who separated himself from Avram Avinu. Bechol toshia yiskala shniskala klono b'vati knesios b'vati midrashos. Disnan Amoni umoabi asturin isur olam. But so ultimately, again, the degradation of Lot is known as in every single base medrash, in every single shul, because we read about his act of incest, and as a result, the pasuk says, "Lo yava umaani amoni umoabi b'kal Hashem." Ba'amar ula, Tamar zinsa v'zimri zina. What's this amazing Gemara? Tamar committed an act of immorality, right? She dressed up. Remember again, Tamar dressed up as a zona, and ultimately, again, has relations with her father-in-law, with Yehuda. So Tamar engaged in an act of znus, and Zimri engaged in an act of znus. Tamar zinsa, yatzem el malachim. What's amazing? Tamar, what was the result of her union, right? kings, right? Tamar is the mother of the monarchical line, right? Unavim and prophets. Zimri committed act of znos. Naflu kamarivos misa. We'll say as a result, ultimately again, thousands were killed. We'll say, get ready for this Gemara. Gedola avera lishma, mimitzah shelo lishma. I will say an avera lishma. Now again, do not take this right and start. Right? This is not to be applied. Right? Not to be applied. This is just to be learned. So it says the Gemara, greater is an avera lishma, an avera for the sake of heaven, than a mitzvah shelo lishma, than a mitzvah with no kavana. Shenemar tivorach minoshim yael ishes chaverakini minoshim ba'oel tivorach. I will say Yael, who was the wife of Chaverakini. We'll say, remember again, this is a story. We read this on the first day of Rosh Hashanah. This is Haftorah, right? The story of Yael, who lures Sisera into her tent under the illusion of protection. So according to Chazal, so Yael had 7 acts of relations with Sisera in order to tire him out. He fell asleep in the tent, and that's when she calls Barak and Devorah in. Sisera's here. They kill Sisera. She kills Sisera in his sleep. So we'll say she was a married woman. She was a married woman. It's one of the paradigmatic examples of an Avera Lishma. She committed adultery for the sake of heaven, for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the pasuk says she is even greater than the women of the tent. We'll say, who are the women of the tent? Man nihu noshim ba'ohel, Sarah Rivka Rachavaleah. We'll say, amazing. So literally again, the pasuk says that Yael, who committed an Avera Lishma, is mamash like on the level, ultimately, again, of the Emos. So that's a very strong statement, that an Avera Lishma is even greater than a mitzvah Shalom Lishma. So is that true? That Rabbi said in the name of Rav, a person should always engage in Torah and mitzvahs, even not for the sake of heaven. So we'll say we see that even a mitzvah Shalom Lishma has value. Why? Because if you start doing something Shalom Lishma, ultimately you'll come to Lishma. To which the Gemara says, you're right. Ima ki mitzvah Shalom Lishma. Rather, we'll say the way the Gemara should read is as follows: Gidola Avera Lishma ki mitzvah Shalom Lishma. Then we'll say an Avera for the sake of heaven is as great, ultimately, again, as a mitzvah not for the sake of heaven. So we're not going to go so far to say that an Avera Lishma is greater than a mitzvah Shalom Lishma. That far, but we're going to go so far to say, we'll say that there is merit to an Avera Lishma. We'll say we have paradigmatic examples of this. We have Yael. Esther Hamalka is another example of this, we'll say. But this Yisod, and again, I just want to point out, we don't have to exactly stop over here. You should point out, we'll say, this concept of Avera Lishma is dafka in situations where what? Where there's an issue of Hatzalas Haklal. When there is an issue, ultimately, again, or a situation of saving the Jewish people, that's when an Avera Lishma becomes permitted. That's if you look at the examples of Yael, of Esther. These are situations of Hatzalas Haklal, and Avera Lishma becomes permitted. Says Chazal, that Avera Lishma is so great that it has the power almost of a mitzvah Shalom Lishma. We have to stop over here. I would guess so.
It's funny. See, I was just talking to a kid.
No, because remember, that's what the pasuk says. The Gemara makes a joke. So that's so that it was both.
Bad combination, right?
Yeah.
So just so you know.
No, the Gemara is asking. You tell me that it's never king will sin. Okay. That's what I mean. It says Xera is God saying that the king has no choice.
Okay, so that is right after. That's oh, no, he does say Zevachim is next. Oh, is this what you're saying? The Daf Yomi cycle saying, but I don't know why it's Horayos is what we're in. It's like, you just didn't get Horayos. You still got what's gonna happen by the end of it. Horayos is short.
You saw it in real estate better, that's the,
Those two
you
together.
got a plug.
But that is nice.